Hey guys, welcome back. We are on episode 4 where today we're going to make a bud vase. And all that entails is a nice little pot with it almost closed in at the top. So we're going to introduce a new technique called collaring. So let's get right into it. Let's go ahead, just like always, let's warm up that clay. You got to wake him up. Get all those molecules moving around. Okay, now that we've got that, let's go ahead and push down and forward and knead our clay. We gotta knead our clay so it's consistent. This makes all the rest of the steps so much easier. So much easier. And it is pretty satisfying to take a little chunk of clay and turn into a cute little monkey. All right, you gotta tell me, what do you think that looks like? That's the only time I'm gonna do that in this series. All right, so pushing down and in, down and in, down and in, or down and forward, down and forward, down and forward, till we have this nice cinnamon roll here. And then we're gonna roll it back into itself. It's a nice, consistently kneaded piece of clay. Okay, so let's grab a little bit of water here. I may have grabbed a little too much, so I'm gonna spread it all over the wheel. All right, and then bam. Okay, we're gonna push down and turn it into the middle so that we don't have too hard of a time centering it. Let's go ahead and center this guy. So we're gonna get him wet. Remember to plant those arms down as we push in and up with our palms. This is one of my favorite parts. It feels so good for the clay just to be going through my hands like this. I'm gonna speed the wheel up just a little bit. All right, on this one, you'll notice that I'm gonna drag my pinky down here. Just gonna tuck in that clay down there. So that reminds me of suck in your gut. Just slowly bring that clay up. Look at all these growing pains we see here in these spirals. That's great. Now let's go ahead and back it back down. So I've got my sponge, getting some water on there to keep it wet. I'm gonna really angle my hand in so it kind of goes, we're going for that English muffin shape, okay? I'm gonna really push. Now, because we're gonna go up one more time, I'm not gonna compress it a whole ton. So let's go ahead and bring it up one more time. And this just gets easier and easier. You're gonna love this part. Once you learn how to center, it makes all the rest of the steps so much easier. Sounds like I've said that before, huh? I'm just gonna push down and keep it wet with that sponge in my hand. Okay, now we're about to the right height here. I'm gonna push in with that left hand. Just compress that clay so that when you slowly let off, there's no better feeling than having just perfectly centered clay. Because then you get excited to go to the next step, which is digging a hole. And since it's a bud vase, you guessed it, if you go too far, it's really not that big of a deal. We're gonna try and keep the bottom about like that thick though. We're gonna try. I'm human. So clearly I'm not perfect, so we'll see. Let's check. Ooh, perfect depth. Okay, so now that we've got our depth, let's go ahead and pull that clay towards us. So we're just gonna hold our hands tight together and watch the magic happen. This is where I got my nickname, Magic Hands. My thank you to my TikTok followers. All right, we're gonna get that wet and compress the bottom. I'm gonna keep kind of most of the tool kind of in the middle because we want a smaller base for this guy. So just kind of going back and forth. We're gonna compress the bottom. Again, this helps with preventing cracking down there, but it is a bud vase, so, you know, worst case scenario, it's really not that big of a deal. Okay, now that we've got that, let's go ahead and square up the walls. Had a little too much water in my sponge. We're gonna bring it in too, because what I envision is kind of more of a little tall, skinny vase. And I just had a thought too, while I was getting ready today. Would you guys like to see me draw a shape and then we make the shape together? Let me know in the comments below if you'd like that, or if you just like this kind of spontaneous creative process where we kind of find our way as we go. That kind of reminds me of life. To find yourself, you gotta lose yourself. You kind of have to just keep moving. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this guy up. So we're gonna roll that sponge in there. I've got my fingers locked in. I'm gonna really push down and in to scoop that clay. This is a really great way for you to learn too. If you get confident pushing in and up, don't forget to smooth out the top though. If you get confident pushing in and up from the outside, then you know you're ready to start pushing from the inside first. Watch. Because if we do that, whoa, look at that, and then we kind of pinch and pull up, it keeps a nice consistent shape. I'm going a little fast, so I'm going to slow her down until that centrifugal force almost threw us right off the wheel. All right, let's pinch our thumb and finger around there. Okay, I've got a tiny little lake in there, so before I close it in, I'm gonna get that all taken care of. Let's do a finger pull. Why not? Let's get this wet. Whoa, I could barely fit my hand in there. We're just gonna push down and in. I'm gonna really suck in that clay at the bottom. And now I'm gonna slowly go up before I run out of water. Gotta have lots of water on there. We're just bringing that clay up, kind of maximizing as much clay as we can until we get to the top here. We're just gonna slowly let off and kind of coast through. See how I just gently lift off? That'll save you a lot of havoc and grief if you can remember to slowly let off. Okay, we're looking really good. However, we do need to smooth out the walls here, because if we start messing with the top, it's gonna just rock your world. So in a bad way. So we're gonna hold this guy on the side, and let's just get our first original form or shape, which is just a nice cylinder looking shape. So we're just gonna make it nice and smooth. Wow, this clay, I really stretched it. If you really stretch it, just be very careful you don't push too hard. And look, we're gonna go slower, okay? Real nice and slow. We're gonna go to about like right here though, because now that all of that is nice and smooth, we can kind of bring in the top and test it a little bit. Let me get this water out of here though. I want to test how strong this is. So what you're gonna do is just get a little wet here. And this is called 6 points of contact. So you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you're gonna slowly push in and up. And if you remember in a previous episode, I told you that when you're going in and up, you can have the wheel go a little faster, but when you're going out and wide, you want to slow it down like a lot. Look at this. Okay, before I go any further, I'm gonna take this metal rib, and we're not gonna make like a succulent like pot shape. I still want it to be kind of skinny, but just barely rounded. And now that I can't really fit my hand in there, I'm gonna take this guy and get it wet and kind of slick. And what we're gonna do is act like this is my finger inside. I'm just gonna hold this guy right here. We're gonna gently push the clay onto the tool. I'm barely bending this tool as well. Like very, very gently. Because I don't want to push too much, because I don't want to go too much, like wide. Okay. Now right about here, if we slowly let off, I think I can fit my finger in there now. Oh yeah. So I'm just gonna slowly push and lift together and roll. Now, you guessed it, we're gonna go back down. This is like another way to kind of center. So I'm gonna hold the rim right here and just slowly back it down. There we go. Nice and slow. Okay. Now, you can tell we've got some stuff down there at the bottom that could cause us a little havoc. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. We're gonna hold our wood knife like this, and we're gonna pick a spot and just slowly push down and in to trim that clay. Oh, I love that. Now, you can try and push down, but look, it's pushing the clay up if you do that. So the way to get rid of the stuff down here is you flip it around like this, and you put that guy right in here. And look, if I just slowly rotate my hand, I'm gonna stop right there. I'm actually gonna angle it towards myself. You just have to be super careful that you don't hit your pot. But if you do this, the clay is gonna go out towards your knife, and it's a lot easier to clean up that way. It's a little pro tip there for you. All right, let's go ahead and, oh yeah, let's clean that up. Now this guy, let's just brush our knife against it. Just kind of roll it in. We're not looking to finish the whole, shape down there quite yet. We're just kind of saving ourselves a little bit of time ahead by rolling it down and in there. Okay, that's looking good. Again, I flipped it back around and angled it toward me so we can get all the gunk off your pot there. Now, because it is wobbling just a little bit, let's center down by holding that rim, and then I'm gonna slowly kind of brush this tool against here, like this. All right, now let's go ahead and bring in the top. This is where it can get a little dicey. So what you're gonna do is we're going to get the top a little wet, okay? Just like that. And we're gonna go from probably right here and just push in and up. Like this, as we push in and up. It's looking really good. That clay wants to go in. Maybe let's come down here and do it. Really change the shape of your piece of pottery a little bit. Now what I'm gonna do is I need to get the inside. Be careful you don't just drip water down into the pot, but just on the wall inside, because we're gonna hold our hands like this, like the butterfly grip or something. I'm gonna take one finger on the inside and one on the outside, and I'm just gonna slowly kind of pinch, and I'm pushing in and up with that outside hand. Just go nice and slow. Watch the clay as it's really stretching the limits there. You can see how thin that is. Look at that. All right, now we're gonna hold the top, and we're gonna slowly kind of glide this tool and push gently on the outside. This will help get it kind of centered again. And we're gently pushing in, but not too much. There we go. Okay. because I like the bottom part, but I still think we can go in at the top somewhat. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna drag this down to make sure the bottom's nice and sturdy. There we go. That's looking good. And now let's go ahead and wash our hands off. Whoop. So we can use our handy dandy hair dryer. Okay, so remember, go in at the top. All right, see, we didn't need much, just a little bit. Now let's go ahead and make it more of a bud vase instead of just a little vase. So we're just gonna get the clay wet a little bit. Some fun drips. Make sure your hands are wet. And this time we're gonna be a little more aggressive, okay? We're gonna really push in and up. And then we're gonna do a tiny little pull. Look how slow I'm going. It's looking really good, you guys. Okay. Famous last words. It's looking really good. And then it falls. So now I'm gonna embrace this little, indent here by putting the tool right here. And then what we're gonna do, now that we've embraced that, I'm gonna do what I've done before, and I'm just gonna kind of wrap this tool back down. Oh yeah, now it's almost like a teardrop shape. Super cool. Okay, now let's go ahead and bring in the top a little more. This is why it's important for the rim to be just slightly thick, like 1/4 of an inch, nothing less, because if it's really flimsy, it's not going to be easy to bring it in like this. Just look at that. Here, I'll give you an even better look. See, now that's this small, we can take 4 points of contact. Before you close it off, take your pinky in there, and let's do a little pull. Just little steps. Let's bring it on up. Stretch it as much as we can without overdoing it. Now all you gotta do is just gently push towards the tool out here. Wow, I love doing bud vases. Probably one of my most favorite things to make. And look at that, those growing panes up there. Isn't that incredible? All right. Let's go ahead and round this out a little bit. Check that out. Okay. Now, believe it or not, we're gonna do it one more time because we really want it to be bud vase. Okay, so we got some water up here in the sponge, and I'm just gonna very gently let it glide on top. Because there's so much growing panes up there, and it's getting thinner, you gotta be so delicate with it. I'm like barely pushing it all. Okay. Now, let's just get barely the top wet. Okay, we got basically the whole thing wet. That's fine. Now let's do 4 points of contact right here. You could even, we'll do it like this. I'm gonna speed it up just a little bit, kind of gently push in. It's really up to you how enclosed you want to go and what you envisioned, it's up to your imagination. You do you. I think where I can barely fit my pinky in there might be a good place, because I can kind of gently flare it out if I want to, which that's actually really pretty. all you're doing is just giving it just enough space to put a little flower in there. Now, let's go ahead and embrace this shape. Look at that. I love this tool. It is a little dangerous though. You gotta be careful. Make sure you have a good grip on this tool. And let's go ahead and make that more of a natural curve. See how it kind of went in? If you want it to flare more, just kind of hold the tool right here and then gently push it towards the tool. And then it'll have that nice thing, that nice kind of ramp. And then we can gently kind of push on the clay. I love this part because this is how you make it look kind of like a continuous round shape, angle. We're just slowly guiding that clay down. Wow, look at that. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and clean up the bottom somewhat so we know what we're dealing with down here. There's a lot of water down there. Oh, that's looking great. Okay. So let's go ahead and smooth out the top and then we'll heat this guy up. So I'm just barely giving it a little bit of pressure. Yay! Look at that, that's so beautiful. All right, I'm gonna clean off my hands real quick because it is hair dryer time. Now, we're gonna kind of angle it this way. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this around our hands like this. We're just gonna slowly glide across the bottom, okay? Now that that's nice and heated up, oh yeah, that feels good. Oh, there's water in there. I just spilled it on me. We're gonna smooth out the bottom. Because guess what, guys? We are just about done. Got that all smoothed out. And if it sinks in a little bit, don't worry. It's gonna flatten with, gravity. Let's sign this guy. Got my signature, whoop. Then I'm gonna put the year. That way you know what year I made it. Okay. And now this is ready to go in the kiln. Should we put it in the kiln? Let's do it. Oh, check it out. It's bisque fired. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's go ahead and glaze this. Now we've got Pottery, or Penguin Pottery Supplies gave us this red brick matte series. So it's gonna kind of look like this. Figured what better vase to do this red, this bright, beautiful red than on our bud vase. So the really good thing about this bud vase is we technically only need to do kind of the outside and a little bit on the top here. So let's get right into it. Now, oh, I almost forgot. You do need to mix this up for about 1 to 2 minutes, it says, and then apply 3 coats. I noticed that on the very first time I used this glaze, it was a little thicker on the thick side of things. So I added a little bit of water, just a couple, maybe a teaspoon or 2. And so it has a little bit more runny consistency, a more wet consistency, which I really like. Now, one thing I really like to do is establish this bottom line here. So let's just go ahead and do that first. You get a ton of glaze on our 1 1/4 brush. And if you want to buy your own tools, we'll put the link below on all the tools and glazes that we use. But let's go ahead and add 3 layers. So this is our first layer down here. And I like to goop this stuff on there because if I kind of angle and push the brush against the pottery like that, it'll create this really thick rim, which is almost like painting 2 to 3 coats right off the bat. And it gives us this cool natural foot where that'll be natural looking. And you'll know what I mean by that once it's glaze fired. Let's just go ahead and put that right there. It's looking nice. I'm gonna pull up some of this glaze around there. There we go, that's a good line. All right. Okay, there's one more part I kind of want to touch up. So I'll just come against it like this, get a nice little wave of glaze. And look at that. We've got about 3 layers on the bottom there. Now we can kind of go wild on the rest of the pot. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's get our first coat down. Wow, look at this glaze, just goes right on. So what's happening, if you weren't here for the other episodes, is that this piece of pottery is actually like a really dry sponge. And so what's happening is as we paint this glaze, which is kind of like liquid sand, onto your pot, it soaks it up. And then in the kiln, it turns that glaze, which is, like I said, kind of like liquid sand. And I mean that because it turns into glass in the kiln. So that's why I like to call it like liquid sand, but really it's just a bunch of, chemicals put together in a liquid form that you can paint right onto your pot. So, all right. Now, as we near the top here, I'm just going to be careful not to get too high because I still want to be able to grip the pot by the top here. And the reason why is really I just don't want my fingers to get any glaze on them, but also we're going to go back down for our second coat. And then we'll do one more coat right after this one. And if I do it this way, it's easy to grab, easier to get down there. God, that's looking good. This is gonna turn out so good. My wife's gonna love this. If you guys have any ideas of what you'd want me to do with these pots, like we could auction them off and donate to someone in need. We could put them up for sale. Just let my wife use them. I don't know. You tell me if you have any ideas. Because I know some of you might want to have these. All right. Let's do one more coat on the outside, just real quick. And you can see the more coats you do, the quicker and easier they go on. It's just so slick, like so much slicker. And that's because the pot has already absorbed a good amount of glaze. And so the more, glaze that you put on there, the slicker it'll get. And that's why you only want to do up to, 3, maybe max 4. All right, now let's take a good amount of glaze on this brush. And what we're going to do, see, it's already like dry. This is amazing. I love this glaze. It dries so fast. Okay, so if we just kind of pour in, look at that. Put your bristles in there like this. Oh, that's beautiful. And then let's go ahead and do the top that we didn't do before. This is kind of the last touch here before we finish this bright red brick glaze. There we go. Now I'm gonna do probably just one more layer down in there. I'm just pouring some of that glaze, and then I'm gonna push it down in there with the bristles, the brush. Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. Look how deep I am in there. That's great. Now we don't want this little hole all plugged up because we want to put a little flower in there. This would be a great gift for like Mother's Day or an anniversary. You know, when you just need something simple and beautiful to help remember a special day, to celebrate a special someone in your life. Low-key, I might actually do that for my wife with this piece. Okay, now it looks like we're getting a little too wet at the top. So I'm just gonna do one little kind of swoop like that. And then we might want to dry this a little bit. See how wet that is? If it's like too wet and you can still see, like you can see the light color up there, that means it's too wet. You're just like pushing the glaze around. And so what you need to do is let it dry for just a second. Which I'm surprised, like the rest of this dried so quick. There we go. Now let's just add a little thin layer of glaze on the rim very carefully. Not to get too much. Okay. Actually gonna get some of that thick glaze off, and then let's just dab it. Oh yeah, that's gonna actually look pretty good. There's a lot of glaze in there, but I think I'd rather have more than not enough. Awesome. Look at that. 3 coats. Let's go ahead, try and save all that glaze there. And don't forget, put the cap on so you can remake it. Now let's see what this red brick looks like. Let's throw it in the kiln, shall we? Whoa, that was a close one. All right, we've got red brick. I like it. Comment what you think. It definitely turned out a little bit more dull than I thought. I thought it was gonna be like bright red, but hey, we'll take it, right? Now this little bud vase turned out really nice. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us today. And I hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you on the next one.